Once in a while, a film comes along that's like an open door to another culture, to another way of life, to experiences you've never really considered before, and you're transported emotionally, intellectually, to be immersed in a whole world, a whole other way of thinking. Ship of Theseus does just that. Be prepared for a remarkable voyage. This is a deeply thoughtful, intelligent, and at times uncomfortable vision of a changing culture and changing individuals. Since its premiere at the 2012 Toronto Film Festival, Ship of Theseus has become an ambassador for what Indian films can be. There is no Bollywood dance number in the middle of it, no star-crossed lovers unable to touch until the last reel, no silly subplots with predictable comic relief characters. There is no sense at all of that sort of trivial vision that we've developed regarding Indian films here in the West. Understandably, it's been seen by many as a breath of fresh air and an honest reflection of modern Indian culture. Aaliyah is a sight-impaired photographer, played by Aida El Kashef. She's a strong-willed young woman, but beneath that is a clear indication of fear. Fear of not being independent, and at the same time, fear of what will happen to her if she is totally independent. Her very patient male partner is supportive of her creative endeavours, but issues arise when Aaliyah moves from being on the waiting list for a cornea transplant to it suddenly becoming a reality. With her eyesight restored, what once made her distinctive is no longer a relevant note in her biography. She's just another photographer with eyes. How she adjusts to this change in her life is just one story in a triptych about donor body parts. I can see your eyes rolling from there. A film about donor body parts? Well, yes, the title, Ship of Theseus, comes from a paradox raised by philosopher Plutarch. If you replace all the parts of a ship bit by bit over time, at the end of the process, is it still the same ship? The self-absorbed blind photographer in the first story contrasts completely with a second story about a Jain monk, brilliantly portrayed by Niraj Kabi. He's a hardline animal rights activist facing almost certain death due to his failing liver. But when he discovers the medication on offer may have been tested on animals, what happens to that hard line? One of the real highlights of the film are the exchanges between Kabi as the monk and a young man who decides to follow and challenge his arguments on animal rights and much more as well. An unexpected, entertaining and at times funny insight into the passion of these two characters. Some reviewers have commented that the dialogue exchanges are contrived, preachy and not naturalistic, but I kind of disagree. I mean, these are educated, intelligent characters who love to play with words and ideas in a verbal debate. They are modern-day street philosophers, and for them, it's a game they both revel in. The third story is about Naveen, a young, wealthy stockbroker, the recipient of a kidney transplant, and he's recovering just fine until he unearths some questions about the legalities of the operation he's been through. I'm not giving away what the issue is, but I will say that morality and money play out a very interesting argument all of their own. And what's often been dismissed in India as problems too big to deal with and conveniently excused as part of an ancient caste system, well, do those excuses still hold up as relevant in an age of this advanced medical technology? What social and humanitarian responsibility does the ever-increasing young, wealthy and educated in New India have towards others less fortunate than themselves? Now, trying to raise funding for a story like this, given it was so uncommercial in its aspirations and highly critical of the system and the social norms for that matter, no small task. The writer-director Anand Gandhi was in development on this film for over 3 years, and much of it was ultimately shot with a tiny crew of 3 or 4 people going guerrilla style on the streets of Mumbai. Even so, it never looks or feels like an underground effort. The locations, the use of camera movement and the composition of the shots, they're always relevant to what's happening, and at times the images are almost paint-like in the pale, washed-out colours and textures. The colour grading is really beautiful. Okay, now you might have to do a rewind to read some of the subtitles in some of the pacier exchanges, but please give it a fair go. Put away the iPad, put away the other distractions, and engage. If you are open to it, you will be rewarded with a very rich experience for the mind and the senses. End.